Jessica Buchanan wasn't sure what she had heard in the dark night of the Somali desert. The sound, barely perceptible amidst the foliage, blended with the echo of her own struggle against a urinary infection, threatening to spread to her kidneys, plunging her into fever and vomiting. After 93 days in the hands of Somali land pirates, her access to food, water, and medicine was severely limited, and the shadow of death seemed to draw nearer. Amidst this uncertainty, a kidnapper, alerted by the same sound, woke the other pirates to the presence of intruders. The unexpected outbreak of gunfire marked the beginning of a new threat for Buchanan and her fellow captive, Pole Hagen-Thisted. Exhausted from months of malnutrition and illness, she clung to a blanket, wishing to disappear into the darkness of the desert. At that critical moment, a pair of hands reached out to her, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. "Jessica, you're okay," echoed a faceless voice in the darkness. "I know you're scared, but you'll be okay. We're the U.S. Army, and now you're safe. We'll take you home." In today's video, we'll tell you about the incredible and brave rescue operation carried out by the Navy SEALs, which saved Jessica Buchanan and her colleague in the dangerous territory of Somalia. Jessica Buchanan, a 32-year-old American citizen, played a vital role as an educator in Somalia, where she worked for a prominent humanitarian organization. Her work focused on raising awareness among children about the dangers of landmines. These dangerous weapons function as small bombs planted in rural territories and pose a constant threat to civilians throughout the country. In an environment marked by insecurity and tribal conflicts, Jessica refused to confine herself to the safety of walls and chose to confront challenges directly in the field. She decided to carry out her mine awareness mission near the Green Line, a division separating areas controlled by Islamist groups from other areas governed by democratic governments. This border represented the security limit, and Jessica was determined to challenge it to fulfill her humanitarian mission in the most vulnerable populations. The night before her trip to Islamic territory, in October 2011, she sent a text message to her husband, Eric Landemalm, who also worked in humanitarian efforts in Somalia. Given the potential danger she faced in this mined area, Jessica asked her husband a question. "If I'm kidnapped on this trip, will you come to rescue me?" In the midst of the dark Somali desert, the land cruiser advanced along the dusty road with Jessica on board alongside her colleague, Pole Hagen-Thisted. Although nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first, tension was palpable in the air due to the lack of movement in the area. However, that normalcy was disrupted when they heard movement in the front seats. An unknown driver took over the wheel, replacing Jessica's usual driver. Before they could understand what was happening, the convoy was ambushed by a group of armed men who seemed to emerge out of nowhere. The outbreak of violence caused the vehicle to stop abruptly, with the mercenaries taking control within seconds. As chaos engulfed the place, Jessica found herself face to face with the threat of land pirates. The man tasked with protecting them had betrayed them and handed them over to the Somali kidnappers, who demanded a ransom of up to $45 million. Buchanan and Thisted were taken hostage. After hours of traveling with guns pointed at their heads, the two aid workers were forced to walk through the night to a compound in rural Galmudug, about 90 miles inland from the Somali coast. This is how Jessica described her deep fear of being raped.
And I think, okay, this is it. Like, I'm bracing myself to be shot in the back of the head. And I think that there's mercy in the fact that maybe they're not going to rape me first, but that it's just going to be quick.
The first few days after the kidnapping were even more harrowing for Jessica Buchanan. The night hours stretched on endlessly, shrouded in the cold of the night and often soaked by the seasonal rains. Her diet was meager, limited to small portions of tuna and a piece of bread each day. Beyond the terrible fears that the kidnapping entailed, Buchanan feared for her previous health condition, as she suffered from a thyroid condition and was battling a kidney infection. Her captors did not provide her with the necessary medications. For more than 3 long months, Buchanan and her co-worker were forced to sleep on mats in the open desert, subjected to extreme conditions and without access to adequate medical care. It was a test of physical and emotional endurance that wore down their strength and hopes of being rescued. This is how Jessica testified. "Yeah, I mean, they treated us like animals, being so sick that you're throwing up behind bushes, and you can't walk straight and you're lying in a fetal position on the ground under a tree, and they don't even care. Their duty was to keep me from dying because then I was worthless." The Somali kidnappers initially demanded $45 million as a ransom for the release of Jessica Buchanan and her partner. In addition to the ransom, they also sought the release of Somali prisoners held in the United States. The government of the African country condemned the act and pledged to cooperate with the rescue efforts. However, the Somali authorities were not willing to give in to the pirates' demands and emphasized their position against paying ransoms, as this could encourage future kidnappings. Despite this stance, the situation remained delicate, with negotiations ongoing and uncertainty over the fate of the hostages. Finally, on January 25, 2012, a daring rescue operation led by President Obama was unleashed, involving the Navy's Team 6. This elite team, best known for their role in taking out Osama bin Laden, faced unprecedented challenges from the start of the mission. Aware of the urgency of the rescue, the SEAL operators prepared for a high-risk mission deep into Somali territory. However, fate had other plans. Hurricane-force winds and an unexpected solar storm threatened to disrupt the operation and hamper calls with support units. Despite these adversities, the SEALs remained steadfast in their determination to carry out the rescue. With precision and bravery, they charged into the unknown darkness, facing one of the most dangerous and challenging hostage rescues in history. The rescue is explained in more detail in the animation below.
The mission, named Octave Fusion, called for Navy SEAL Team 6 to parachute into central Somalia, surround a camp where the captives were being held, and take prisoners if possible. But a Pentagon official says when one of the Somali kidnappers fired, the commandos opened up. At least 8 suspects were killed and the hostages rescued.
Every aspect of the operation was meticulously planned and executed. The parachute drop and stealthy advance towards the pirate camp were carried out with precision. According to an anonymous witness quoted by IFA, the world's leading Spanish-language news agency, several helicopters dropped bombs and anesthetic gas to neutralize the pirates. This was followed by an armed confrontation that resulted in the death of at least 8 hijackers and the arrest of 7 more. Diri al-Idis, a spiritual leader of a mosque and a witness to the operation, described how the helicopters began the attack while the pirates were sleeping in their camp. The successful rescue culminated in the release of the captives and the elimination of the threat from the hijackers. Jessica Buchanan testified, "And then I hear my name. But it's not a Somali accent, it's an American accent, and I can't understand. I can't understand that someone with an American accent knows my name, and they say, 'Jessica, we're from the American military. We're here to bring you home and you're safe.'"
So your folks is
There you go.
They're gonna be
You're
so
doing
glad
great,
to see
Jessica.
You're
You're
doing
doing wonderful, okay?
Welcome back.
Just like I told you, okay? We're on a plane now, and we're gonna go to Kuwait, okay? It's about an hour and 15-minute flight time, okay? All these...
Recounting the first moments of her release, Jessica recalls, "I just started crying. At that point in my life, I had never been so proud and so happy to be an American." After storming the pirate compound and freeing the hostages, American forces returned to their base at Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti. The president of Galmudug, a state within Somalia, thanked the United States for carrying out the rescue. Meanwhile, U.S. President Barack Obama congratulated his Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, before his State of the Union address in 2012. Obama was already aware of Jessica's release, and yet during his speech, he did not mention any details about the raid on the Somali pirates in order to avoid retaliation and ensure the safety of the freed hostages until they were in a safe area. When the rescue was made public, the American president praised the courage and professionalism of the troops who carried out the operation, assuring that the United States would not tolerate kidnappings and would do everything possible to protect its citizens. The operation was a test of the country's determination to confront threats to the security of its citizens wherever they may be. The decision to order the rescue was based on Jessica Buchanan's deteriorating health and the assessment that it was the right time to act. Months later, the president personally decorated the SEAL team that carried out the daring rescue. In a private ceremony at the White House, he thanked the elite group for their dedication and teamwork in protecting American citizens around the world. For her part, Jessica gave her first interview about the kidnapping on the program 60 Minutes in May 2013. Among her first thoughts when she was kidnapped were the fear of dying without having had children and without saying goodbye to her loved ones. However, life gave her a break, and together with her husband, they returned to the United States and now have a son and a daughter.
And we had a second chance. And then later, we flew to Portland, Oregon, and I was reunited with my father and my brother and my sister and her husband.
We thank you for joining us in this shocking story, and we invite you to subscribe to our channel to continue discovering stories of bravery and heroism. Until the next adventure.